Welcome to EduRev.
Hello friends, welcome to EduRef. This is Binu Krishna and I have considerable expertise in teaching the subject of art and culture to UPSC CSE aspirants. This is going to be the last video lecture on Indus Civilization, wherein we are going to discuss about the concept of decline of IVC, and we are also going to discuss the probable theories and the why those theories may not be true. So we are going to discuss on both the sides of the coin. And after that, we are also going to see, you can say that we are going to push or give a lead to our next lecture, which is about the Vedic age. We are going to give a lead of this particular lecture towards the next lecture that we have, which is the Vedic civilization or the Vedic age and the incoming of Aryans or the invasion of Aryans. So let us try to club them into this one single module. Let us start for the day. Four stages of evolution. Ideally, the stage that led to the decline of IVC is called as the late Harappan, whereas the ones which is very, very important from the perspective of the examination is your mature Harappan. Because in this mature Harappan only, you had the very prominent urbanized culture of Harappan civilization coming into picture. And what about pre-Harappan? Pre-Harappan is nothing but that is primarily a nomadic people or the nomadic style of living. And only in the early Harappan, you had this formation of large villages, gradual growth of towns, and there is a transition from the rural to urban. And the most urbanized system of IVC is the Metro Harappan. With the end of Metro Harappan, we say what has led to the formation or what has led to the decline of IVC in the late Harappan scenario. So that is going to be the focus for our lecture today, that is the late Harappan phase. So that is going to be the focus for today, which is the decline of IVC. Now, if you take the examples, I could say that whatever that prominent settlements which we have read in the last modules, important sites of IVC, most of it falls under the mature Harappan, whereas some things like, for example, your Amri or Kot Tiji. So these are some things which fall under the early Harappan scenario. And in the pre-Harappan, you have the earliest discovered sites, some of the earliest discovered sites fall under the pre-Harappan. So try to remember only the metro Harappan sites are very, very important from the examination point of view. And you could give a quick glance with regard to the pre-Harappan and the early Harappan and what happened in the post-urban phase, which is your late Harappan phase. Now, try to understand something. The Harappan phase, it seems to have flourished until this period of 1900 BC. Because from 1500 BC, you can call it to be the decline of IVC. And IVC has started to lose its shine. And that is why afterwards we call that this highly remarkable urban phase began to fade away gradually. Afterwards, its urban phase, which is actually marked by systematic town planning, extensive calculated brickwork, extensive metrology that was followed in all of the urban centers. They had the standard weights and measures. They had the distinction between the town planning, that is one feature of citadel, one feature of lower town. There is this usage of bronze tools, there is pottery, there is seals, there is sculptures. All of that practically disappeared because of the fading away or because of the decline of the IVC, which we call it as the post-urban phase of IVC, or otherwise known as the sub-Indus culture or the late Harappan culture. So this late Harappan culture is primarily Chalcolithic in nature. It is primarily Chalcolithic in nature, in which, what do you understand that? In which tools of stone and copper were used. So what was initially present? They were initially bronze kind of, it was Bronze Age, which was actually well flourished, which was actually very urbanized. But right now we are returning to Chalcolithic time of period. Not just that, They do not have metal objects which require complicated casting. That also practically vanished, and villages, they started to be on subsistence agriculture. They subsisted on agriculture. What does that mean? It means they are primarily returning back to the primary activity focused economy rather than getting the excessive focus upon secondary or the tertiary activities. This kind of post-urban phase, it is focusing more towards subsistence agriculture, stock grazing, which means animal husbandry, or and then you have hunting and fishing. Not much of trade and commerce practically, that was absent, and the post-urban Harappan settlements have been discovered in the Swat Valley, and here you can identify that they practiced a much developed agriculture and cattle breeding, which is together with pastoralism. So these tribes became more and more pastoralist in their approach, which means they go in search of pastures, which means that the previous settled urbanized civilization has been losing its sheen because they are moving from place to place, because they are increasingly focusing upon agriculture. So that is why we say that this is not an urban type of civilization. After your 1500 BC, they have practically started to decline. They used black, grey, burnished ware which was produced on a slow wheel. And not just that, the painted Harappan pottery, whatever has been found, they lacked the intricate designs which were present in the mature Harappan phase. And in the late Harappan phase, no object for measuring the length is noticed. That is, length measurement, those tools have practically disappeared. Also, some places they lacked the cubical stone weights. They lacked the cubical stone weights which were present in the mature Harappan phase. So generally, all late Harappan sites, they lack the human figurines and characteristic painted designs. So even in painting, even in sculpture making, even in bronze casting, there was a definitive pullback. The post-urban phase of Harappa saw the end of the Indus trade with the West Asian centers. Trade and commerce practically disappeared, and certain very important, you can call precious stones and beads, they lost their importance. They were practically not found. Lapis lazuli, that is this, lapis lazuli, chert, carnelian beads, and copper and bronze vessels are either absent or scarce as trade items. Now understand, though copper was actually very important part of this particular post-urban phase, the copper being a part of the trade item is very, very less. And all this was very, very natural because most late Harappan sites were mostly rural settlements. It had lost its urban sheen and shine. In the last phase of Harappan culture, few signs of insecurity and violence also started to appear. That is, there is some production of some tools or weapons, new types of axes, daggers, knives with midribs as in the knives which has a long portion to hold it. So these appear in the upper levels of Mohenjo-daro. Not just that, very, very important, take a look at point number 18. Hoards of jewelry, they were buried at places, and nearby that, skulls were huddled together at one place, meaning wherever you find such hoards of jewelry, people have been massacred. And there were at many places, not just on the hoards of jewelry, at many places you can see some sort of skirmishes that have happened at that point of time or between the communities. So all this shows that there is some sort of insecurity and violence at the general scale. Some foreign intrusion have also seemed to have taken place in the late Harappan phase. At several places, take a look at point number 20, you have greyware and painted greyware, which is actually associated with the Vedic people. So what does this all signify? From when you read from point number 16 to point number 20, one thing is very clear, that there is some sort of insecurity, that there is some sort of violence, that people have started to increasingly produce some sort of weaponry, though not a mass production, but still weapons have been upgraded and skulls have been found at groups together. Foreign intrusion have begun to take place because of what do we say that? Because of the presence of greyware and painted greyware, we can say that what has appeared in the Vedic civilization or the Vedic age, that has happened or that has occurred in the post-urban phase of IVC, which shows that definitely there is some foreign intrusion. Now, this is where you have the classic invasion or the classic incoming of the Aryans. So, yes, we have all this can be attributed to the barbarian horse riding people who may have come from Iran, who are the Aryans. But remember, finally, try to remember this point. We do not have any archaeological evidence of any mass scale confrontation between the mature Harappans or between this Harappans and the Aryans. Concrete evidence is still lacking. So that is why we say that the decline of IVC is probably also because of the invasion of Aryans. That is also one of the theory. Aryan invasion is one of the theory for the decline of IVC. And remember, look at the point number 22 that we have here. The Aryans did not come in such numbers as to completely overwhelm the Harappan cities. So again, we can say that the archaeological evidence of Harappan invasion that cannot be conclusively pointed out or linked to the decline of IVC in particular. So yes, if you want to take a look at the timeline, Harappan civilization moving forwards towards the end of 1500 BC, you can say Vedic phase has started. And we can conclusively say that by 1300 BC, this Harappan civilization has completely ended. So this phases, they do not abruptly end and the other one starts, right? There is a phase of transition. So that is why whenever we speak in history, we say that one phase has subsided, whereas the other has started. So there is always a spasm of continuity in between both the phases. And this we call it as the period of transition. So for every phase to end and one phase to begin, we have this period of transition. And then you have the later Vedic phase, and then you have the Mahajanapadas and the Mauryan Empire. So the next, obviously, when we try to close the Harappan civilization by this particular lecture series, we are going to start with the very important Aryan invasion and Vedic phase. Okay, now we are going to discuss about the decline of IVC. So there are many theories regarding the decline of IVC, and some historians say that yes, this is the probable reason, whereas some say that no, that is there is one conflicting evidence which does not go well with the theory. So some of them conflict and contradict with each other. So because of which we cannot conclusively say that this is why the decline of IVC actually happened. First reason is that there is a change in hydrological patterns. There is a change in climatic patterns. There is a change in rainfall patterns. I'm trying to use as much words as possible because at least by one or the other word, you will try to remember what I have actually said. If not for one word, at least by another word, you will try to remember it. Let us try to make it as simple as possible. There is a change in the rainfall pattern, and because of which there can be floods, because of which there can be droughts. So these are something. The flood theory is one of the important theory that have been put forth by many of the archaeologists. And the other one is overutilization of resources. Because of the insecurity, there have been always exploitation of resources. That was also one cited as one of the reason. Ecological degradation, something that I've just now explained to you. Droughts might have happened, decreasing fertility of the soil might have happened. Because of excessive exploitation also this might have occurred. So ecological degradation, hydrological degradation, both might have gone hand in hand with one another. Earthquake theory, that is another probable theory. Earthquake theory, drying of rivers, that is earthquakes might have caused shifting of the tectonic plates, because of which certain plates might have subsided, certain plates might have gone up, because of which the rivers might have shifted their course. So that they say that the earthquakes have caused the shifting of the rivers, because of which there is a drying up of the existing grounds, and this might have caused the decline of IVC. Natural calamities like recurring floods, Aryan invasion. So these are some things which have been quoted as the probable reasons for the decline of IVC. Now let us try to look at each of the important reasons one by one. Now there are many views, different views expressed by different historians. The major controversy is that what is actually true, what is false. That is again not conclusively proved, and whether it ended suddenly or whether it ended gradually, that has also been not yet proved conclusively. Supporting evidence of Aryan invasion, that is what we are going to see. There have been dead bodies found at Great Bath, which suggests that war had actually taken place between IVC and Aryan people. Now, what this negating factors that is in play is that what are the factors which negate the theory? That is what we are going to see. The first reason is that there is a gap of almost around 250 years between the conclusive decline of IVC and the complete invasion of the Aryans. So this gap, who's going to justify this gap? That is one point of view. Another thing is there are no evidence of mass production of weapons and mass burials. So how can you say that Aryan invasion has actually taken place? Because there is no mass suicide, there is no mass killing of people, there is no mass massacre of people. How can you say that the Aryan invasion is the reason for the IVC to decline? That is the negating factor. So there is one supporting factor, there is one negating factor. Let us look at the second theory that we have. Now this theory is over flood theory, the controversy over flood theory. So supporting evidence shows that Mohenjo-daro and Chandhu-daro, it was flooded 7 and 3 times respectively. But the negating evidence suggests that this theory is not acceptable because the first reason is because IVC people had sufficient knowledge of controlling floods. The second reason is that there is no chance of great floods causing destruction to the entire civilization. The civilization, Harappan civilization, is actually spread over a very large surface area. Can one flood cause destruction to the entire or to the whole civilization? Such a big probability is again a question mark. So these are the controversies over the flood theory. The next theory is the earthquake theory. The first supporting evidence is that the IVC, that entire zone is actually an earthquake prone zone, says some people, whereas the others say there is no chance that EQ or the earthquake causes destruction to the whole civilization at the same point of time, says some of the theorists. So this was not put by you and me, this has been properly guided by theorists, some historians say that this is the factor, some historians say that this is not probably the factor because of such and such reasons. So they say that one earthquake or one flood could not have buried the entire civilization. Such a strong earthquake cannot be found at that place of Indus Valley. Further, it's found that some of the structure were very much intact, suggesting that no earthquake could have probably affected this particular region. And final theory is one of the most acceptable theory. It has been the most acceptable theory amongst the historians. It is the theory of ecological or hydrological changes. It is said that there was less rainfall from 1800 BC due to deforestation. Because of depletion of the forest, there was less rainfall, because of which there was a shortage of river water. There was a drying up of river, which led to more and more fights between the people, and that led to the decline. So this is what we call it as hydrological changes leading to exploitation of resources. Moreover, river Saraswati has changed its course, causing shortage of water. Further, Thar Desert, desertification happened. Thar Desert expanded, which increased the salinity of the soil, making the soil non-suitable or unsuitable for cultivation. So these are some of the hydrological or ecological reasons which is considered to be the most acceptable theory for the decline of IVC. So try to remember that. Now, one thing is very, very crucial. This whole system of IVC or the Harappan culture, it had an entire continuity in it. Uh, it was very highly distinguished from its contemporary West Asian civilizations. It was highly urbanized, and it had its proper town planning, like a chessboard kind of town planning. Because, as I've told you before, they did not construct the houses initially and later on planned the roads and the drainage. No, that did not happen. They first of all had a clear cut vision of where you should have drains, where you should have roads, and then later on they constructed the houses. They had very clear vision. On the other hand, the cities in Mesopotamia, Mesopotamian cities, they had a very haphazard growth. Not just that, they had very proper lineage of bricks. They were well aware of the brick and mortar construction. Such kind of town planning is nowhere to be found in West Asia. They had an excellent drainage system, and not just that, they invented their own type of script, which had almost very little resemblance, or you can say practically zero resemblance to the ones that is present in your Egyptian or Mesopotamian civilization. Such is the uniqueness, such is the advancement of IVC. How the IVC started, we do not know very clearly. How such an urbanized civilization concluded, that also we are not yet to decipher. Just like how we are not able to decipher its script, we are not able to decipher what happened in history with regard to IBC. Such is the saddening demise and decline of a most beautiful, of a most urbanized civilization of the entire world. With that, we are concluding this particular lecture. We have one very important practice question here. This was the question that was asked in 2013 prelims. Which of the following characterized the people of Indus Valley civilization? They possessed great palaces and temples. That is, of course, wrong. They did not construct big palaces, nor did they involve much in the construction of temples or religious structures. So the first statement is wrong. They worshipped both male and female deities. That is, of course, correct. They employed horse-drawn chariots in warfare. Remember, warfare is not the main profession with regard to Indus Valley civilization. Neither it is a horse-centric civilization. So the third statement is also wrong, which means the statement number 2 alone is correct. With that, we are concluding the lecture of IVC. Take a look at all of the videos whichever we produce in art and culture. It will be very helpful for your prelims as well as in your mains. Follow the 10,000 plus questions which we have in our EduRev Infinity platform. We also have 2,000 plus documents and lots of videos to enrich your UPSC preparation. Thank you so much and have a nice day. Let's meet in the next lecture.